Calling Razer.
Thanks for calling Razer Creators Affiliation Program. This is Wendy. How can I help you today?
Hi, my name is Scott, and I have a tech YouTube channel, and I would like to review your products under that affiliation program.
Okay, great. What's the name of your channel, sir?
Seriously Tech Stuff.
Okay, interesting name. Okay, I'm not finding it.
Oh, just keep scrolling.
Oh, how many subscribers do you have?
300 or so?
300,000? That's good. Okay, I think I found it. Give me just a sec to review your channel. Hey, Doug, check this guy's channel out. What a loser. Looks like he's using a webcam. What? No, I have him on mute. Oh, shit. Sir?
Yeah.
After evaluating your channel, we can't offer you an affiliation partnership this time. Thanks for calling Razer. Bye.
Hey everybody, Scott here for Seriously Tech Stuff, and as I promised, I have the review of the Razer Wolverine V3 Pro. This one actually has all of the stuff with it. So I did return the other one from Amazon, obviously, and they did send me another one that had everything with it. So I just want to show you what's in the box. Let's get that out of the way. It's a nice box. It's not the best box, but it's a nice box. Okay, so you get a carrying case with the controller, and you do get the cable. It's just the cable. It's their standard cable. I don't think it's really anything. I don't use their cable because it's like 5 million feet long, and I'm only going 3 feet. So we'll get that out of the way, and then have a nice soft like nylon bag here with, of course, their logo on it, because you have to put their logo and everything in there. It is. Okay, so this is how you get it when you purchase it. These little guys come off. It's got the standard sticks on them, and then you also get a longer standard stick, and then the domed stick, which I really wish there was two of these. I like the dome ones. I'm a fan. And then, of course, what was missing from my preview was the actual USB dongle for wireless. This will work with PC and Xbox. So it's one of the first wireless controllers that is third party. All right. So, as before, if you did see my preview, if you didn't, don't worry. I'm going to go over everything again in an actual review. I got a lot of time with the other one. It just didn't come with the wireless, so I couldn't give an honest review on it. I couldn't tell you how everything worked if it didn't come with everything. So, let's get a look at this guy. The coating on it is powdery, soft. It's not flat. It's not going to leave a lot of fingerprints. The buttons are nice and slick with a gray text on them, which I love. I hate to see an all blacked out controller and then a rainbow on this. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't look nice. It looks goofy. This does not look goofy. This looks really, really nice. And of course, we're going to go over the back buttons here in a little bit. But yeah, rubber coating on the back, same texture on the front as right here. They still like to put a line right where your fingers like to relax, but I guess that's okay. It's not that intrusive. Top buttons, triggers. And if you notice the sound, they sound really good. And then when you engage them into trigger mode or button mode, can you hear that? it's like a mouse click. It turns the buttons, I'm sorry, the triggers into like a mouse click. Very precise, very responsive. Shoulder buttons are nice and clicky. And then the extra buttons up there, which I love these, are nice and clicky as well. Yep. USB-C. This can be used in wired mode, which you will get 1,000 hertz polling rate on PC, or wireless mode, which you will get the regular whatever it is. Doesn't really say what it is, but it's normal. All right, let's talk about these sticks. These are Hall Effect sticks, which use magnets instead of actuators. So they don't drift. They're not going to drift over time. And on the Pro version, not the Termina edition, which isn't out yet, these sticks come off. And it's kind of to great strength. I'm going to show you this, if this camera will focus on it. It did last time. See, there's like a little bitty ball in there. And as one commenter pointed it out, I was kind of ranting in my preview of how unintuitive this is to replace or pop one off, whereas the previous ones used magnets. You can't use magnets because it uses magnets to move the sticks, to pick up the movement in the sticks. So I felt like an idiot. But, you know, I feel like an idiot most days, so it wasn't anything new for me. But if you look on this right here, if I can turn it correctly, it's hard to see. There's a little red, let's see if we can find it. Come on, camera, let me get this in it. Jesus. Anyway, so there is a little red dot right there, little arrow. And if you see that, there's also one on the actual stick. So that's where they line up. If you don't line those up, they don't go on. They don't work. So you have to make sure that you get that. We'll put a different one on. Yeah. Not that big a deal. I kind of was a little perturbed about it in the review. But once they're on, they don't come off. They don't slide around. They're connected very well. They feel really good, really smooth. However, and this is just a me thing, this is just my opinion, the tension on these is greater than a normal controller. So if you compare it to something else, and I'm going to compare it to the version 2 here in a second, the tension on them is a little bit tighter, a little bit stronger than I like. I like my sticks to be a little bit looser. These are not going to get looser, I don't think. This is not something that wears in. So just keep that in mind. If you like your sticks to be adjustable, or if you like them to be a little looser and a little more flexed, then these are pretty tight. Not that big a deal. I mean, it's probably better to be tighter. It's probably more precise in precision games. However, it is a noticeable difference between this one and the version 2. So if you've got the version 2, you're going to notice that right off. Ooh, these are tight. The D-pad is pretty much the same as the V2, but it does have a floaty kind of click to it, which I really like. This is my all-time favorite D-pad. And if you see it, it feels like it kind of floats there. So, but when you hit it, you definitely feel a click. So there's no question of where you're going with that. And it being a little raised when you're going from here to here, it's just very intuitive. Your thumb just naturally feels it. Haven't had any issues with that at all. It feels really great. The buttons on the front are their mechanical switches. Also have a click to them. And if you're used to the regular mush of the regular Xbox controller, this might take a little bit of getting used to. It gives. It's almost like oh, this is mushy, and then it clicks. So it's almost like a pressure sensitive plate more than a button, if that makes sense. So I like them. It may take a minute to get used to, but at the same time, you can also use the back buttons for that. Now, the way I've got mine mapped is the back buttons are the face buttons, and then these two top buttons here, which are also programmable, are the buttons on the thumbsticks. So press down for that is also these buttons right here. Now, I have a problem with my thumb, which is one of the main reasons I went to one of these dudes. So pushing down a lot on that is that you're putting flex on that bone that really hurts. Also the tension. I don't like the tension. So having these extra buttons right here for that are just a godsend. Now, let's talk about the switches. Sorry, thumbsticks. Sorry, buttons. Sorry. All right, let's get this out of the way, and we need to talk about the triggers. Now, if you disengage the locks, these feel really good. They're not mushy. They feel exactly like they're supposed to. And yes, I've actually decided to do this review when my neighbor's cutting their tree down. So sorry for the extra noise. I don't think they'll be done for like a week. So if you can hear it, that does have some tension on them, and it does feel good. I would probably only use these for, like racing, but because of the shape, look at the shape. It's very drastic as far as its scoop, its trigger, and it just makes it feel a lot better. If your fingers are bigger or longer, you're going to hit in the same spot. It doesn't matter. So when you engage the buttons, they just turn into like little clicks. Very little effort. So for, of course, competitive shooters or third-person shooters, anything like that, you would probably want to use those because it just feels really nice. They don't necessarily feel like buttons on your fingers, but when you press them, your response is like a button. So they still feel like triggers, but your response, when you hit the click, it's instant. Very, very nice. I really like that. Now, the back buttons. When I saw this, I thought, that is a terrible design. That is an absolute terrible design. One of the things I like about back buttons, of course, is that you don't have to take your thumb off of the thumbstick, which is usually for aiming, to push these buttons. So you can keep doing what you're doing and hit any button you want. It's great, especially for games like Destiny 2, Call of Duty, things like that. And when I saw this design, I didn't really like it because one of the things I don't like about the Elite controller is that they have the paddles on the back, and the paddles come out to like right here. There's no way to hold the controller without having your fingers on those paddles. And then when you have them on the paddles, they're paddles. They're suspended. So if you were to like just hold them with the paddles, you would be pushing down the buttons. I think that's a terrible design, and I hope that they fix that with the new iterations. Razer, though, has solved it because when you hold the controller, if you've got an Elite, the problem I have with Elite is, of course, the shape. I feel like I am squeezing the living crap out of the bottom of it because I'm having to hold this controller with a heavy battery in it, but I can't use these fingers to support any weight. I'm having to use this part of my hand and my pinky to cradle the entire controller. That gets fatigued and my hand starts cramping, and it's just not, and I feel like my controller is starting to just slip right out of my hand. These don't work like that. They look like they do, but they don't. Here's the button. So here's the paddle or the button or whatever they want to call it. You push it here. Now you can push it here, but it's not where it's really intended. It's back here. So by doing that, you're holding it, and your fingers are actually on. If I can get at a better angle, you're actually on these. See that? And it still supports the weight of the controller. So I'm using the only fingers I'm using right now are these, and I'm not pressing any buttons. But if you were to pull outward this way, you push all of them. So it's not a matter of pushing down a button or a paddle and pushing into the back of the controller. You're not going this way with it. You're going that way with it. So you basically are just squeezing. So when you're squeezing, you're not taking your support from the controller itself. And this controller is a little bit, I mean, it's got a battery in it, so it's a little bit heavier. So it's probably my favorite back buttons so far. Typically, I don't want to have my fingers on the back buttons, which leads us to the comparison. Okay, now this is the version 2 in black, and as you can see, there are some very prominent similarities to this. The buttons, kind of the placement of everything is pretty much the same. The D-pad is almost identical. These buttons are the same. Everything else is kind of changed. You do have some RGB right here, which this does not, thank goodness. It just has it in the name. And I'll turn it on in just a second to show you. But we're going to talk about the back buttons first. Now, the back buttons on these, I don't know anybody that likes these but me. I like these buttons, and I'm not going to lie. So, if you hold this, again, all of your support, you're holding it just like a regular controller. When I need that button, when I want to push that button in the back, it's there. I can even use one finger or my other finger. I just reach over and do it, much like you would if you had your thumb on the thumbstick and then hit a button. See how you go over and hit the button? So if you're moving and you need to jump, you jump real quick. Bam, bam. Okay, the second it takes you to do that, it's a little bit less back here. You can even keep your fingers on it in some instances, but you don't have to keep all of your fingers on all of the buttons because it's not supporting the weight of the controller. See? So I think people that try to think that you keep your fingers on these buttons, you don't have to do that. I don't think that's really the way it's intended. It's intended for you to just go as you need it, much like you do this. By doing that, it feels like a regular controller until you need that button. And I love that. Now, this is what I love about this controller. They've solved that issue with these. Now, another comparison is the triggers. So these are the old triggers on the version 2. They feel fine, but there's nothing special. They feel kind of cheap. I'm not going to lie. They even sound cheap. The top buttons, pretty much the same. Shoulder buttons, they're a little less clicky and a little more clunky. But then when you engage the stops on the triggers, they don't feel like they're not buttons. They're still just triggers. They're just shorter. So you lose that snappiness. You lose that accuracy with those. So I've gotten used to these. It's hard to go back to these. So with that difference, you can hear it. It just makes this feel a little cheaper than this. The overall build quality and feel of this controller is an upgrade from this one. So if you have this controller and it works perfectly fine and you love it, I'm not sure there's a reason to go to this one just yet. If you get stick drift, if this thing breaks, or if you need to replace it for whatever reason, I don't see why you would not like this one. The back buttons is really the most drastic difference. But again, if you like these, which I'm apparently the only one, going to these is not that big of a difference. It looks like it, but it's not, because you still hold it the exact same way. Okay, let's talk about the sticks for a second. Now, earlier I said that I like my sticks a little bit looser. These are the perfect tension for me. They're loose, they're precise, I have no issues whatsoever. You can go in the software, kill the dead zone, which I'll show you in a minute. And I really, these are probably some of my favorite sticks. The only ones that I think are better than this that are not Hall effect is the Thrustmaster X Swap. Those sticks are phenomenal. These are second best, and they feel great. But I will tell you, you ever been playing with somebody and you hear that? These things are clunky. Not clunky, they're clunky. These, they just don't have the same hollow, clunky sound as these. Not a big deal, but if you use this when you're streaming, or if you're in a party with a bunch of people and they're like, what are you doing, building a shed? That's what they're hearing. So again, when you have this, or if you come in, you've never seen these before in your life, you pick this one up and you're like, oh, that's nice. You pick this up and you're going to be like, oh wow, this is so much nicer. Just in the 2 seconds it takes to pick this up and move some stuff around, the quality of it feels so much better than this one. This one retailed at $159.99. This one is $199.99. Now, you can get these for like $60 now. These feel like $60 controllers. I'll tell you. 60, 70, not a problem. This has never felt like a $160 controller to me. It just doesn't. It compared to the Elite, this I think is more of a competitor as far as the feel of quality to it. And it may actually be a better quality. Because the Elites, I haven't had a lot of luck with the Elites. I've gone through 2. I don't break controllers. I have controllers for a very long time. All right, so here we have the software. This is in PC, obviously, if you see the mouse, but you can control it on the PC. You can also use this app on Xbox. It does have to be in Xbox mode, and that is where you hold this button and this button, hit X to do anything with it in Xbox. If you leave it in PC mode, it just doesn't work. So go to edit, you can click assign buttons, and you can go in here, and these are your back buttons, and you can click on this and have it do whatever you want. Here's the clutch buttons. I don't use those, they're stupid. So super easy to use, super basic. You go to thumbsticks and you have circular mode. Now, I really couldn't tell a difference in these. Keep them diagonal directions pronounced. Smoothens the motion to create a more rounded movement. Sure, I'll try that. And then dead zone. This is my favorite thing right here. Okay, so you can actually set these to 0. Now, if you notice, what happens is they go a little wonky, right? So you can move these as it moves my mouse pointer around, and they don't go necessarily to... Now, that's where stick drift kind of comes into. Supposedly, these will never get outside of what that is right there. Unfortunately, you also cannot calibrate them to make them go back to 0. So I click on that one. I just go to 1 and it goes to absolute 0. And I've tested these and it does stay to 0 once you get outside of that. When the version 2 controller came out initially, it was set to 5 on both of these. As you can see, there's your dead zone. It felt terrible. And of course, so many people complained. They were like, okay, well, you know. And what they did is they didn't want it to stick drift. So they made it terrible just so that they wouldn't get returns. Well, people were returning because the controller felt like garbage. So they fixed that and added it. So with this one right out of the gate, you get a dead zone control. Now, the sensitivity clutch, I didn't add that. And what that does is that allows you to hit a button that slows everything down, your movement, like on your right sticks for, say, sniping. So you hold down a button and it slows it so that you can, snipe somebody. I've used that. I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't really do anything for me. I mean, I feel like, you should just get good. So this is the haptic strength. Obviously, this is just the vibration. You can probably hear it vibrating on the desk. I usually set this low, but on this one, for some reason, it sounds and feels, how do I put this? Tighter? Like, I've been playing a lot of Space Marine 2, and when you do a execution on these enemies, it just feels better with this controller. I set it on 5 though. I set it on 5 on the version 2, and it kind of had the same effect of everything else. It felt fine. It just didn't feel tight. It felt a little loose and clunky. Lighting effects. This is on the front of the controller. This is just the Razer brand. You can turn it off. You can put it on static. Same thing with, I think legally Razer has to add something to this in every product, or else they, can't put their name on it. Power saving, turn off the device. It is wireless, so keep that in mind. So if you set it down, you want it to kind of go off and not have to have it, turn it back on, whatever. But you can set it to 15, 30, and 60. Don't set it to 60 though. If you're going 60, just turn it back on. Probably 5 is fine for me, especially since I play at my desk. So that's pretty much the software. It's very easy to use. It's not flashy. It's not overdone. It's easy to create new profiles. And if you go to wired controller setting, and here it is, Xbox mode. It is in Xbox mode right now. It says 250 standard polling rate. And then if you hit these 3 buttons, or just click that, you're in PC mode. Now, again, I really didn't see a big difference between these. I played some Space Marines and some Call of Duty in those modes, and I don't feel like it really helped me. But I don't know. Maybe this mode is not what they say it is, and later it might be. I don't know. But if you're on Xbox, don't worry about it. You're not getting it. You're only going to get the 250 polling rate. So on PC, it doesn't seem to affect anything. Now on a mouse, absolutely. If you go from 250 to 1000, you can feel it. But it's a different device. So either this is just total BS, or this may actually come into play if you're using something super competitive. I haven't been playing Battlefield or anything like that lately, so maybe that's where that comes into. If you're, again, like the sniping, you can name the controller. Thought I'd mention that because you can just name it, Wolvie or something like that if you want to. Up here is your battery life. It does tell you how much you got left. And then firmware version, when you get this controller, and I do suggest you do, if you don't have one, update the firmware immediately. Other than that, we're going to go back to the desktop. Okay, so with all that being said, I think this is one of the best Xbox-style controllers on the market. I really do. Razer has nailed some things here that I think other companies are going to start copying. I've had the Elite controller. I've had several SCUF controllers. Even the Thrustmaster, which I really do like. This thing kind of tops all of them. Personal preference, again, the sticks are a little bit just, if they were looser, I would like that a lot more. But the new redesigned back buttons are amazing. The triggers with the mouse click is a super nice touch. Hall effect sticks that feel really nice. Not changing the D-pad, it's near perfect. Having the option of wireless on Xbox and PC, I don't think you're going to do much better than this controller right here. If you have this one, if you have the version 2, again, keep using it. This is an upgrade, but you're looking at $199 and you're replacing something that is still working perfectly fine. So when this does eventually go out, or if you need another one, or for whatever reason, I have no reservations telling you that going to this will be an easy transition and an upgrade. It absolutely will be. It just feels much better quality than this one. So there you go. There's the review. If I've left anything out, if you have any comments, you have any questions, please leave a comment below and I will get to them. And thank you, Razer, for allowing me to purchase this at full price and give a review on it. Have a great day.